Mark Goldberg. To thine own self be true. To thine own self be true. Mark Goldberg.
I took a deep breath, I looked my boss right in the eye, and I let it out. I've been working 24/7 and my stress level's up to here and I never see my family and I never see my friends and I'm... You're a little blue, he said, in that sarcastic tone. Actually, I wasn't blue enough. Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, and anyone who's ever wanted to wipe that smirk right off their boss's face. I'm here to tell you why, for me, it's good to be blue. When I was a senior in college, I took a seminar with management expert Ken Blanchard, where we learned about different personality types. We each completed a multiple choice questionnaire, and based on our answers, we were classified into one of 4 color-coded personalities. The first were the Reds. And I knew that I was a Red. See, the Reds were the go-getters, the movers and shakers, the doers, the next titans of Wall Street. Red. Next were the Greens. These were the analytical ones, the ones who use data and numbers to make their decisions. The Yellows were the emotional ones. Their feelings drove everything that they did. And finally, there were the Blues. And the Blues were the overgrown hippies, the ones who said things like, can't we all just get along? And there's no I in team. Peace, man. So I finished my questionnaire and I gave it to my friend to grade. But I knew what the answer was. I just wanted to hear him say it. So he finished scoring it, and he turned to me and he said, Mark, there is no doubt about it. You are undeniably a blue. Wait, what? But I'm a red, I said. And he said, Mark, I didn't even have to grade this to know that you're a blue. He called over to some of our friends and he said, hey guys, what color do you think Mark is? And they yelled back in unison, blue! I didn't understand. I was a mover. I was a shaker. I was studying Japanese to become an international businessman, a titan of Wall Street. But when I thought about it, all those Wall Street jobs I was applying for, I wasn't getting any of them. I kind of wasn't even enjoying the interviews. Have you ever felt out of place? Then I thought about an offer I had from the Japanese Ministry of Education to move to Tokyo and become a high school teacher, to work with kids, to become a cultural ambassador. So I moved to Japan and had the most amazing 3 years of my life. Watashi wa blue desu. When I came back to the US, I went to law school to become a public interest lawyer. But when I graduated with a mountain of debt, I ended up going into corporate law, but just for a year or 2 tops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, I'm still there. I'm representing big companies and sexy, cutting-edge matters. I was a mover. I was a shaker. I was representing the titans of Wall Street. But I was working 24/7 and my stress level was up to here and I never saw my family and I never saw my friends and I realized that I was in the quintessential red job. And it wasn't me. So I gave up my law practice and I became a communications advisor. It was a lot of writing, a lot of editing, a lot of creativity, a lot of teamwork. And there were no I's in any of my teams. I loved it. I did it for 5, 6, 7 years until I realized that all my friends from law school were making partner in their firms. And all my friends from college were getting jobs with titles like director and vice president and fancy offices with big windows. And I bought into the notion that if I didn't have all that, then I wasn't a success. And I let myself be wooed away by another firm who made me their U.S. Director of Communications. And I got a fancy office and a big window. And I worked 24/7, and my stress level was up to here, and I never saw my family, and I never saw my friends, and I don't think I unclenched since my first day on the job. Saw that one coming, didn't you? I didn't. Took me 3 times to learn to be my true blue self. But our true nature always catches up to us, and not just on the job front. I'm happy to say that I now have a new career running a corporate wellness program where I focus on health and nutrition and fitness and stress management. So as you think about your own personalities and your own life choices, don't try and fit a square peg into a round hole. Instead, follow the immortal words of William Shakespeare, as amended. To thine own self be you. Madam Contest Chair.
The timers need a little technical assistance, please. We will move forward with the paper timing cards instead of the electronic timing. Michael Vinberg, the worst 4-letter word. The worst 4-letter word, Michael Vinberg.
What are the words going through your minds right now? Naughty, naughty. Regardless what they are, the word I'm talking about this afternoon is much, much worse. Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guests. When you were a child, what was it that you wanted to be? Do you remember? For me, it was crystal clear when my kindergarten teacher had us march around the room. We were to act out what it was we wanted to be when we grew up. Johnny was a fireman. Tommy he was a cop. Susie, a nurse. And Michael? Well, Michael, what was that? I'm a dancer. The whole class laughed at me. And then Susie shouted out, boys can't be dancers! And there it was. The worst four-letter word. C-A-N-T, can't. Lucky for me, I knew she was all wrong. Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, these guys were my role models, proving guys could make a lot of money as a dancer. When I was 9, I got myself into a dance studio, and I was home. I was working on my style, my technique, my flexibility. One day, my teacher was pushing me so hard, dripping in sweat and quivering in pain. I said, I can't do it. Her eyes got as big as saucers. And the words she said next are engraved on my soul. Never say can't. Those 3 little words empower me still to this day. The great Robert Schuller posed the question, what would you achieve if you knew you couldn't fail? Think about it. What if the next time you found yourself saying that dirty 4-letter word, you stopped yourself and flipped it and said, it's possible? For me, I always knew I had Broadway in my blood. And so when college was done, I sold my car, packed my things, and off to New York City I went. I knew that I was destined to be there. And sure enough, within 2 months, I got my first big paying contract. It was a European tour of Fiddler on the Roof. I was paid a great deal of money to travel and see Europe. And I met some of the greatest people that are still really close to me today. When I came back to the United States, I was so confident in myself, I knew that I was exactly where I needed to be. And sure enough, the next audition I landed, Gower Champions, 42nd Street, tapping my way across the U.S. The universe was showing up and placing every step right under my feet. All I had to do was show up. And then I fell in love. And not with the girl next door. No. With a girl from that European tour over in Germany. And so there I was at a crossroad. Do I follow my head and stay in New York where I know I'm destined to be? Or do I follow my heart and go to Europe and be with her? I followed my heart. And lucky for me, she lived in Hamburg, Germany, which was the German-speaking Broadway. A lot of the same shows that were playing Broadway and London West End were also playing in Hamburg. And when the time came for Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cats audition, I knew I was in the right place and I made the right choice. So I grabbed my material together and I was off to the theater. And just as I was crossing the street, a most cruel pain shot up the center of my back. And I was locked in place. My body couldn't move. Cars were honking at me, but it was nothing I could do. Somehow I got myself to a doctor. And the prognosis came back. Ankylosing spondylitis. The doctor told me that my whole life I would be riddled in pain. And that I can't ever be a professional dancer. And there's that 4-letter word again. But this time, this was something chronic. How could I battle against that? Everything was ripped away from me. What was I to do? And then I heard the words of my former teacher in the back of my head. Never say can't. Never say can't. So I fired that doctor. And I got one who would talk to me in a positive light. And yes, I had to make some life changes, so I became a director. And I got to travel around the world and see some of the most amazing places as a director. And I married that girl. She's sitting right over there. I love you, honey. We moved back to the United States and opened up a performing arts school, where we passed on our love of the performing arts to the next generation. And yes, I teach dance and music, but at the core of everything, I teach life principles. The dance steps and the music and the song and the acting, that's all just the vehicle to teach those truth principles. And the core of my teaching, and what every one of my students will tell you, is that at the root is never say can't. Now, our community theater got the first rights to perform Cats a couple years ago, and I was asked to direct the show. And we had the entire cast right out of our community, all except for one cat. And I knew we had to go to New York to find this character because no one else could do it. And then the artistic director and the choreographer turned to me and said, "Michael, you've got to do that role." And I said, thinking back to that day in Germany, "I can't." What did I just say? I'm such a hypocrite. I'm teaching my students never say can't, and what did I just say? So right then and there, I flipped it. I did a 180, and I got myself into the best condition I possibly could. And for 4 long months, I rocked it out of the house as Rum-Tum-Tugger, the rock and roll cat. Life had come full circle, and I got a chance to be one of Andrew Lloyd Webber's cats. You know, I often think back to the day when that doctor told me that prescription, that diagnosis. And I think, what would happen if I would have believed him? I would be an angry, bitter man, and who would doubt me for it? But then, look at all the lives I wouldn't have touched. So remember this, as Henry Ford says, whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right. So tell yourself it's possible. Madam Contest Chair.
Rebecca George, The Blue Light. The Blue Light. Rebecca George.
Do you believe in guardian angels? I do. And they don't always have wings. When I was a kid, my parents drove a 1980 Pontiac Firebird. It was charcoal gray with white leather bucket seats. It was cool. And every morning, my poor mother packed a minivan load of kids into that tiny little sports car and drove us an hour to school. We'd elbow, push, and bump our way in, kick my dad's blue light on the floor, and we would fight over who had to sit on that hard metal hump that ran between the 2 back seats. But, Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, it was a small price to pay. That car had another job. Off-duty police car. My father was chief of police in the town of Ludlow, Vermont. And when you're chief, you're always on call. He would get a call on that CB radio we had mounted under the dash, 10-4, reach down, grab that blue light off the floor, slap it under the roof with a clunk. Instant police car. And he'd be off to wherever he was needed. Clunk! Off to the scene of an accident. Clunk! off to chase a speeder through town. Clunk, off to the scene of a crime. But catching the bad guys wasn't what police work was always about for my dad, although those were always the best stories he told. It was about helping people when they needed help the most. I'm sure that many people who saw my dad's blue light believed their guardian angel had come. Dad left police work in his early 30s, but he carried that blue light like a torch in his heart for the rest of his life. I remember being about 12, and we were cruising down the highway, and we passed a car fire. This thing was ablaze! Most people keep on driving, but not us. Clunk. There we were, backing up the shoulder, because Dad had a kitchen-sized fire extinguisher in the trunk. My blue light came on November 2nd, 2012. It was a few days after Hurricane Sandy had devastated the New Jersey coastline, and our whole region was without power. My street looked like a war zone with downed trees and power lines blocking part of my driveway. Those first couple days, we could only get one car out of the driveway. After a few days, it started getting low on gas. The debris had finally been cleared so we could get that second car out. Well, we got in it, only to find out the battery had died. Oh, geez. So I'm standing there in my driveway. It's starting to get dark and cold, and I've got these two cars that are useless, and the phone rings. It's my dad. Is the power back on yet? No. Oh, Dad, you won't believe what I'm dealing with. I got a car with no gas, a car with a dead battery. I just don't know what I'm going to do. And then I heard typing. And he asks, "What year is your car?" Clunk. 90 minutes later, my father's standing in my driveway with his little headlamp on, installing a new battery in my car. He had driven all the way up from Philadelphia without hesitation, even though my mom had told me he had gone home sick from work that day. 4 days later, my family hit the lowest point you can imagine. The power was still out, and we had moved in with my father-in-law. And my mother-in-law passed away after a long illness. And the phone rang one more time. "Hi, Dad." "What?" He had called to tell me his cancer had returned and spread to his liver. That Saturday, when he arrived at the church for my mother-in-law's funeral, his normally perfectly tailored suit hung on him, and he had turned yellow from jaundice. By Christmas, he could barely walk. And on January 24th, 2013, my father took his last breath right before my eyes. And I couldn't help but think, as I helped care for him in those last few days, that that incident in my driveway with the battery had been my dad's last blue light. Fellow Toastmasters, I am proud to say that I was wrong. Dad spent a week in the hospital in early January while doctors were trying different procedures to keep his liver functioning. And he lay there, not thinking about his own pain, but of the pain of the patient in the next bed. This poor man moaned and wailed every time one of the nurses touched his bandages. And he spent a week making phone call after phone call, trying to find the money he needed to pay his bills while he wasn't working. When Mom came to take Dad home, he said to her, "Diane," clunk, "I want to help him." As my parents left, Dad handed that man a card and he said, "This is so you can focus on getting well." It contained the money he needed to catch up on his bills. Fellow Toastmasters, we all have that ability to help other people by carrying that blue light like a torch in our hearts. As for my dad, I know he'll be okay because there's a special place in heaven for guardian angels who lead with their blue light. And now, he's got his wings. Fellow Toastmasters, what can we do to make our blue light shine just a little brighter? Madam Contest Chair.
Ray Schnell, in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. Ray Schnell.
My family knows that I have caller ID and special ringtones on my phone for each of them. So why do they feel compelled to identify themselves each and every time they call me? Madam excuse me. I'm sorry. It's a text message from my daughter. We're talking. I'll call her later. Madam Contest Master, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests, and anyone that feels as I do, that life's little annoyances today may become our biggest regrets tomorrow, because life can change in a heartbeat. My mom calls me every Saturday night at 7 o'clock sharp. My mom has a distinctive voice. Hello, Ray. This is your mother. I knew it was my mother not only from the caller ID or the time or the day, but from the very first. Hello, Ray. So what's the weather like in South Carolina? Well, it was hot here today, Mom. Now, I hate the hot weather. Well, then tell me, Mom, what was the weather like in Philadelphia today? Now, it was cold here today. I hate the cold weather. We would continue to talk, and she would usually conclude by asking, so have you heard from your brother Gary this week? Yes, Mom, I heard from him just yesterday. Well, that's nice. Well, I love you, Ray. And I love you too, Mom. Speaking of my brother, he also has a distinctive voice. Well, hello there. This is your brother, Gary. I knew it was my brother Gary, not only from my caller ID or his goofy sounding voice, but one more thing. I have no other siblings. No other brothers, no sisters. Just my brother, Gary. One day I tried to fool him. Oh, really? I thought maybe this is my brother Bob or my brother Joe. No, it's your brother Gary. We would talk about family and football, but he would always conclude by saying, "So how are the children doing, right?" "The children are doing fine, Gary. They told me to say hello to you." "Well, that's nice. Well, tell them I love them, and well, I love you too, Ray." "And I love you, Gary." My brother mentioned my children. My children call... Wait a minute. Did I say my children call me? No, my children don't call me, they text me. Just yesterday, my son was in his bedroom, which is 10 feet away from the living room where I was sitting. His text read, "Hey, Dad, what time's dinner?" He was 10 feet away. I'm no better. I texted him back. In about 10 minutes. My daughter, on the other hand, whenever she texts me, I can instantly tell her intentions. She will either text simply, "Hey, Dad," or she'll text, "Hey, Dad," and spell Dad, D-A-A-A, A-A-A-D, which sounds like this. "Dad!" Which means she wants something. Now, whether it be in a text message from my children or a phone call from my mother and brother, if you think I responded each and every time, well, you'd be wrong. You see, I am of the firm belief that I can always call them back. Or could I? About 3 years ago, within 6 months of one another, both my mother and brother passed away. I no longer get phone calls from my mother. I no longer get phone calls from my brother. The last call I got from my brother was on a Wednesday night. "Well, I'll call you back on Thursday night, right?" No, don't bother, Gary. I'm going to be busy. Call me on Friday night." "Well, okay then. Well, I love you, Ray. And I love you too, Gary." On Friday morning, I got a phone call from my sister-in-law. You guessed it. My brother had passed away. I didn't get that phone call on Friday night. "Hey, it's 7 o'clock on a Saturday night. My mom's going to call it." No. She can't. Would I like to get one more phone call from my mother where I hear her say, "Hello, Ray"? You bet I would. In a heartbeat. My kid's got straight A's in school. I'm going to have to call my brother. Oh, no. I can't. Would I ever like to look at my phone one more time on my caller ID and see his name? You bet I would. In a heartbeat. Oh, about that text message from my daughter. She spelled Dad the long way. Should I respond to this now? Should I? You bet I should. In a heartbeat. Madam Contest Master.
Read Wally. A good harvest. A good harvest. Read Wally.
Yes! This is a good harvest. Family always has its ups and downs. Life, ups and downs. But the goal is always the same. You want to be able to jump up and say, yes, this, my life, my family, is a good harvest. Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, when I was a little boy, about 6 inches tall, my dad always talked about a good harvest. And finally I said, Dad, what do you mean a good harvest? We're not farmers. Actually, son, that's exactly what I mean. Like a farmer out in the fields trying to raise good crops. We, your mother and I, your parents, are trying to raise good kids. And son, let me show you why a good harvest is so important. Raising good kids raises the value of the whole society. Thanks for the pressure, Dad. And then when I turned 7, my whole world collapsed. My parents were divorced. Divorce is like a broken fence that never gets mended. And then 20 years later, when I was 27, I got divorced as well. Another broken fence. But don't worry. After watching my mom and dad fight all the time after they got divorced, after watching how my dad treated my mom after they got divorced, I knew how to treat my ex-wife. Like a jerk. And then a funny thing happened along the way to the rest of my life. I realized I didn't need to be so mean to my ex-wife. Why? If you had been with me at a dinner party recently, you would have heard me say, I have an amazing ex-wife. And everybody at the party said, ha ha ha, oh, that's the best joke we've heard all night. I'm not kidding. I have an amazing ex-wife. And the only one who didn't laugh at my joke was a woman sitting with her 2 sons. And she said, and I'll never forget it. Why doesn't my ex-husband talk about me like that? Why doesn't he talk about me like that? And then she asked, Reed, how did you get from divorced and hating your ex-wife to here? Calling her amazing. How did you do that magic trick? I said, well, it was simple. I just called her on the phone and said, I'm sorry for being a jerk. But the more important question is, why? Why did I apologize? The book I was reading happened to say, look, Reed, you can't be happy here if you're always angry at your ex-wife in the past. And the book convinced me that I needed to treat everybody with value, including my ex-wife. She's people too. So in 1996, 5 years after I got divorced, I decided to do something, and I mended a broken fence. I called my ex-wife and I said, Lisa, I'm so sorry that I was mean to you during our divorce and our marriage. I am so sorry. And I could see her on the other end of the phone with her Elizabeth Taylor eyes. Thank you. And then a long pause, and he said, where's this coming from? It's been 5 years. Oh, I read a book. Really? That's all it took, a book? What's the name of the book? Don't laugh. I won't laugh. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Oh, I've heard of that book. I've never read it, but I've heard of that book. And it made you apologize? How come we didn't read that book when we were married? Because we were spending too much time being in love. And when I ran and I told my dad that I was apologizing to my ex-wife, he said, whoa, 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 no, no, no. Once you get divorced, you do not apologize. It's a rule. And then 10 years later, on November 24th, 2006, me, my brother on his iPhone, and Dad in his retirement outfit, shorts and a short-sleeved shirt and flip-flops, standing next to a 6-foot rose bush, and we're right out in front of my mom's place. And Dad turns to me and Lance and he says, I'm going to go inside and I'm going to apologize to your mother for being a jerk to her during our divorce. Wow, did you hear that? Only 10 years ago, my dad said, nope, don't need to do it, not important. And now he's taking my advice, my example, and I turned to my dad and I said, what you're about to do, Dad, is going to impact me and Lance for the rest of our lives. We now have something to share with the future. Divorce is like a broken fence. And my dad was reaching out and mending that broken fence in front of his 2 sons with a simple, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The next night we went to dinner, the whole family. And both of my parents, my mom and my dad, sat at the same dinner table for the first time in 35 years. Wow. My hope for you is this, that when you are reaching out and you mend that broken fence, mend just one broken fence, just one, it will transform your life. Because you and your family and your lives have their ups and downs, but the goal is the same. You want to be able to jump up and say, yes, this, my life, my family, my community, my legacy, this is a good harvest.
Rhonda Holdridge. Carry on. Carry on. Rhonda Holdridge.
I finally had the opportunity to compete at the district contest because Toastmasters International had just lowered the height requirement. Mind you, I am not worried about being short. I come from a long line of short women. The shortest are the toughest. Grandma raised 6 kids, worked 3 jobs. Mom had cancer, never complained. Aunt Cindy, 4'6". We had to pick her up just to say hello. What they had in common, besides being short, they were tough. They knew how to carry on, no matter what their challenges. Madam Contest Chair, ladies and gentlemen, we all have challenges. I have a few of my own. Being short, just one of them. My mama had a dream ever since she was a little girl. She wanted to live in the country. My dad would turn his world upside down for that little lady. So we moved to the country. Our challenge, all 25 acres, hillside. It was so steep. We had to raise special cattle with 2 short legs, just so they wouldn't roll down the hill. They used their long horns for balance. We called them Scottish leaners. My dad had always been a city slicker. He knew nothing about country living. It didn't bother him. He always said, if it's in a book, I could do it. One of Dad's challenges, to build a barn. Looked great till the first rain, and it sagged. Leaned a little, just like our cows. Of course, Dad said, there are never failures in life, just lessons learned. He learned a lot of them. I learned a few just watching him. Now, Mama was one tough little lady. Dynamite does come in small packages with silver hair. Even the Tasmanian devil wouldn't mess with Mama. If the cow kicked her, she kicked it right back. Milking was always an adventure with a cow that was kicking and spinning. It was as agitated as a Toastmaster with lockjaw. I took one look at that cow. I knew I couldn't get it done. Mama, I'm so sorry, I can't do it. Annoyed, she grabbed that bucket and headed towards the barn. Mama had a mad little strut. We laughed from a distance. From outside the leaning little barn, we heard grunts, stomps, and snoots. That cow wasn't happy either. All of a sudden, there was a big bang. Mama come bursting through the fence, barreling down the hill, bucket in the hand, barely spilling a drop. We thought she broke her rear end. We stood there in awkward silence. Mama scrambled to her feet, passed me the bucket, wagged her crooked little finger as she walked away. Carry on. I miss Mama every single day. When I was faced with my own serious health condition, with a questionable prognosis, I knew what Mama would say. She would tell me to carry on. My doctor told me that I would be on medication for 10 years. He gave me the side effect list. And there was a few. May experience symptoms of menopause and hot flashes are likely. This should say, burns like hell. And you will have night sweats, irritability, weight gain, mood swings, facial hair, and acne. And there was one more. What was that? Memory loss. And that's on a good day. But wait, there's more. Your voice will deepen, and you will turn into a hairy little troll. Don't get me wrong. I love Danny DeVito. I just don't care to look like him. Today, I realize there are no failures in life, just lessons learned. If life kicks you hard, you kick right back. But most of all, whatever challenges you have in life, carry on. Madam Contest Chair.
Chris Knocktrub. The Box. The Box. Chris Knocktrub.
The door was always kept closed. Curiosity overtook the young visitor, and he opened it. Upon seeing the contents of the spare bedroom in my home, my son's friend Stephen exclaimed, "Wow! At our house, we just have a junk drawer. You have a junk room!" Madam Contest Chair, fellow and future Toastmasters, my children have more lovingly named it the sharing room. And it was there that I learned the value of thinking inside the box. The sharing room was where everybody put everything we didn't know where else to put. But Stephen's description was accurate. And so we dedicated the upcoming Saturday to clearing out the sharing room. My wife Peggy started on the project. I checked in an hour or so later. "How's it going, old reducer of refuse?" To my dismay, the trash bag next to her was nearly empty. "What have you been doing in here?" She looked up at me, misty-eyed. "Reliving memories." Memories? Today is about clearing clutter, not about reliving remembrances. It was obvious. What was needed here was somebody more objective, someone more decisive, less emotional. "Peggy, this project requires a man." She rolled her eyes and walked out of the room. And I went to work. The sharing room was filled with old banker boxes like this. I reached in and started throwing stuff away. Old paper is not important. Oh, it's the invitation list to our wedding. Oh, it was the greatest party ever that night. Everybody took off all their uncomfortable shoes and put them in a big pile. We danced around them all night long. Peggy looked so beautiful in that dress. Well, it's just a little paper. Doesn't take up much space. We can keep that. It's an old greeting card. It's to Peg from me. "You promised to love me for better or for worse. Yesterday was worse. Thank you for keeping your promise. Sorry I was such a schmuck." You know, there's no date on this. Saved me $350 and my marriage. Time Magazine, September 11th. A day we all shared. Cross-stitch. Never started. "Peggy, now that you have a baby, you'll have more time for projects like this. Love, Jane." More time. That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. Trash. Now we're getting somewhere. Oh, I didn't know we had this. It's the program for my grandfather's funeral. Gramps was an amazing guy. In the 20s, he was a Golden Gloves boxer. He spent the Depression hopping boxcars looking for work. He went on to have a successful career, designing some of the very first computers. At the age of 88, he died on the dance floor at my cousin's wedding. Not a bad way to go out. A song in your heart, bounce in your step, surrounded by people who love you. I miss him. Peggy came back into the room. "How is it going, oh Oracle of Organization? You know, we've got some really great stuff in here. We can't just put it in the trash." She rolled her eyes and walked back out. From the hallway, she yelled, "And don't throw away that cross-stitch. I'm going to do that someday." I sat there convinced that, other than the cross-stitch, these were among our most valuable possessions. There was a popular catchphrase 20 years ago about thinking outside the box. Mark, you need to think more outside the box. Maybe we had it wrong. Maybe we should be thinking inside the box. Our memories are our greatest treasures. There isn't much that you have that won't eventually break or get lost or go out of style. So what do you truly own? If you walked into the sharing room today, you would find our most valuable possessions properly archived on the wall-to-wall shelving that we installed. That's a manly project. Recently, I found my 15-year-old daughter, Maggie, in there, going through this very box. She had her wedding invitation list in hand, and she asked me questions. Where was your reception? What was your first dance? Did you cry? I said, Magpie, have I told you how I sang my proposal in a room full of people I had just met? Do you love me? And how your mother was so embarrassed, she didn't answer me for 15 minutes. And Maggie and I talked. We talked in a way that middle-aged dads and teenage daughters don't talk often enough. The sharing room had finally lived up to its name. Somewhere in your home, there's a box or a bag or a bin filled with your most valuable possessions. Open it. Share the stories with somebody you love. Discover the magic of thinking inside the box. Madam Contest Master.
Josh Wilprecht. If your fear is here. If your fear is here. Josh Wilprecht.
Fear is here. The waves grow with each step I take into the ocean. My legs grow weak in anticipation of the next wave that brings me down. When life's waves of doubt take you down, do you stay down, hoping no one noticed? Do you get ready for that next wave? Or if you're like me, wonder, why is a drylander from South Dakota here in the first place? Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters and guests, when it comes to achieving your dream, has something ever stopped you from swimming? For me, it's been fear, knocking me down with reasons not to go after my dream. Fear has had that grip on me my whole life, until I received advice that changed my life. It's when he reminded me, if your fear is here, you're almost there. 3 days after the perfect South Dakota wedding, my wife and I arrive in paradise. It was pineapples, palm trees, with the perfect girl.
This was our dream, to come to this beach and swim in that ocean together for the first time. So I did what any normal guy would do. Calculated the probability of something going wrong in that ocean. As a risk analyst by trade and a worrier by habit, my mind was made up. So you can imagine, as I approached, my hands, my stomach. I quickly realized I wasn't alone on that beach. And out of nowhere, "Don't worry, Josh. Your old pal, Fear, is here. And don't worry, you don't need to go out into that ocean. What if you can't swim? What if you drowned? What if Jaws?" You can't mistake Fear when he shows up. He might look different for you, but for me, he looks to be about 6 feet tall, has brown hair and glasses. And he's got this stench of musty mediocrity. But don't let Mr. Status Quo fool you. He just talked me into not going after my dream. "Don't worry, honey. You go on without me. I'm a little tired. I'm just going to sit on the beach here for a while." My regret took life's remote and turned everything into slow motion as I saw my wife in Baywatch fashion. Her once strong blue eyes weakened with sadness and disappointment. What she saw was a man ready to give up on his dream. But lucky for me, the old saying rings true, that behind every strong man is a angry woman. She let me have it. "Joshua Robert, we did not fly all this way and spend all that money for you to sit on the beach all day." Apparently, my wife's Dutch heritage wanted to make sure we got our money's worth. But she was right. Why would we fly all the way just to get to the shoreline of our dream and quit? Something began to stir inside of me. And then, "Are you kidding me? You just saw your wife Baywatch it into the ocean and you're tired? Man, you better check your pulse. You are at a choice and you can either sit on this comfortable beach of regret with your old pal Fear, or you can swim in uncharted waters towards your dream. What you need is your new friend, courage. Courage always stands tall for being 6 feet. He walks in dressed to impress, and he has this smell of minty magnificence. Fear and courage go to battle like an old-fashioned arm wrestling contest, battling for the right to my dream. Soon, it's one voice that stands out. But what if you can do all the things that fear says you can't do? Think of all the times in your life you were so close to giving up. And you chose me, courage, and you succeeded. Like the time in your life you didn't think you were good enough to go to college or get your dream job. Or what about the time you asked that same girl out and she turned you down twice? If your fear is here, you're almost there. What beach are you stranded on right now? Have you been letting fear give you wave after wave of reasons not to go after your dream? Fear has had that grip on me my whole life until I received that advice that reminded me I have succeeded once and I can succeed again. And I chose courage. And I made it into that big, salty ocean, seeing my dream become my sweetest reality. If it wasn't for that day at the beach, I wouldn't be standing here today. Just 2 years ago, I was going through a job loss, and I was so close to quitting Toastmasters, fearing another failure. But I remembered what I learned that day at the beach, and again, I chose courage. And when you choose courage, you too will find yourself running to your own ocean of your own dreams in Baywatch fashion. You are at the moment when your fear is here. The waves grow with each step and knock you down. The next time you are given the choice to sink with fear or swim with courage, remember, if your fear is here, you're almost there.
Lynette Charity. Squish, squash, stomp. Squish, squash, stomp. Lynette Charity.
I was in the doctor's lounge having a cup of coffee between cases when one of my colleagues came up to me. Dr. Charity, how was that career conference you attended last month? Why, Dr. Thomas, it was fantastic. In fact, I now know what I want to do for the rest of my life. I'm going to be a stand-up comic, lounge singer, voiceover actor. Imagine it. Ellen DeGeneres, Ella Fitzgerald, and the voice of a cartoon character all rolled up into one. Me! What? At your age? That's the stupidest thing I have ever heard. And that's when I realized that I had just encountered, dun, 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 a dream zapper. Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters and guests, and anyone out there who's ever had encountered a dream zapper. They're everywhere, and they can be anyone. They pose as friends, neighbors, co-workers, spouses, even ex-spouses. Their purpose? To squish, squash, stomp on your ideas and your aspirations using ridicule and snide remarks. They have 2 green thumbs, and they use them to plant the seed of self-doubt in your mind. And with one simple statement, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, they enjoy watching it grow until your dream is nothing but a memory. I met my first dream zapper in 1969. I was 17 years old, attending a recently integrated high school in Portsmouth, Virginia. Mrs. Pollard was the guidance counselor. Mrs. Pollard, short, blonde, little gray at the temples, very authoritative, and she spoke with a very pronounced drawl. Good morning, Mrs. Pollard. Good morning, Lynette. Mrs. Pollard had mispronounced my name from the first day she met me. I did not correct her. I was afraid of her. Mrs. Pollard, I need some help with my college applications. Why, Lynette, why on earth do you want to go to college? Well, Mrs. Pollard, I'd like to someday become a doctor, and I know I need college before I can go to medical school. Lynette, college, medical school, a doctor? Now, you might be getting one of those colored colleges, but no medical school is going to take care of a colored girl. You should work on your taffing skills. You could be a taffist after high school. Squish, squash, stomp. Has this ever happened to you? What did you do? Did you take that dream and put it away and allow it to wither and die and go back to the status quo, your comfort zone, your day job? Or did you surround yourself with positive influences, good friends, good family members, good colleagues? Those people are dream keepers. Dream keepers nurture you. Dream keepers support you. Dream keepers nurture and support your dreams. 44 years ago, I surrounded myself with a dream team of dream keepers. My mother, my great aunt, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, Granny. Lynette, it's your dream. Don't you let anyone tell you you can't dream it. They empowered me to believe in myself and to believe in my dream. And with their support, I did go to college, and I did go to medical school. 1974, my first year of medical school, my father died, and I became seriously ill and had to be hospitalized. For a moment, I became my own dream zapper. But fortunately for me, my dream team of dream keepers at the time, medical school staff, friends and family, they nurtured and supported me back to my dream. 4 years later, I received my MD degree. I received my MD degree, and I took that diploma, I grabbed it and held it up high, and I yelled, Mrs. Pollard, it's now Dr. Lynette Charity to you. Lynette, not Lynette. She wasn't there, but it felt good anyway. I had fulfilled my dream. I'm now 61. I know I look good. It's okay. And I have a new dream. Fellow Toastmasters, imagine with me. I am headlining at the Stardust Lounge. The MC comes out. And now for your entertainment pleasure, Miss Lynette Charity. I walk out on stage in my red slinky dress. I'm hot. I tell a few jokes. I do a few impressions. For the finale, I am standing beside a black grand piano. The lights dim. Hit it! Never knew how much I love you. Never knew how much I care. When you put your arms around me, I get a fever that's so hard to bear. You give me fever. That's my dream. And now my Toastmasters Dream Team, part of my new dream team of Dream Keepers, just realize there will always be dream zappers. Are you going to allow them to squish, squash, stomp on your dreams? Are you going to do that? Or are you going to be like me and take a chance and live it without regret? It's up to you. All of you. You're never too old. Look at me. 60 is the new 40, according to AARP. There is no age limit on dream fulfillment.
We'll have silence until the ballot collectors have collected the ballots. Thank you, PC. All the ballots have been collected. Let's have a round of applause for our contestants. Keep clapping. They're not on stage yet. This is a very fine group of contestants, don't you think? Now, don't blame me for these questions, okay? This is a script, I'll tell you. All right. First of all, I'm going to ask each of the contestants, where are you from, what district are you representing, and what is your club's name? So, Mark, where are you from?
I am from New York City, District 46.
Okay, so you already answered question number 2. What district are you representing? And what is your club's name?
My club is Hunter Toastmasters.
All right. Is there any other club that you'd like to mention or thank?
I'd love to thank the entire district for all their support.
Oh, that's great. All right. Your question. What was your motivation for competing?
I think my motivation for coming to these contests is having a story that I want to share, having a message that I want to get across, and just really enjoying doing that and trying to touch people. And then I think my motivation for continuing is right up here. You know, these people, we sing with them, we dance with them, we swim with them, we text with them, and, you know, after being part of something like this, how could you not want to continue?
Oh, that's fabulous. Well, thank you so much, Mark. Let's give him another round of applause. Thank you. All right, our next contestant was Michael Kvinberg. Michael, where are you from?
I'm from Fredericksburg, Virginia.
What district are you representing?
I'm with District 29.
And what is your club name?
My club is the Rappahannock Regional Toastmasters Club.
That's a mouthful. Rappahannock. Okay, and are there any other club members, club people that you want to?
Again, I'd have to thank everyone from District 29 who's here, your amazing support team, all of you guys. Paul, yes, thank you so much. And also my club of origin was in District 84, so thanks to all of them as well.
And how did you come up with your speech title? What was the process?
Well, I wanted to be a little provocative. And in teaching, never say can't, I do teach it as a dirty 4-letter word. And when kids say it for the first time, the rest of the class sits there, "Aww, you said a bad word." And so I used it very much as a thought-provoking tool.
Okay, well, thank you so much. This is Rebecca George. Rebecca, where are you from?
I'm from Stanhope, New Jersey.
What district are you representing?
District 83.
Wow, it sounds like 83 is in the house. And what is your club's name?
I'm representing Cosmopolitan Toastmasters. We have members in the house, and Cosmopolitan has been an active club for 57 years.
Wow, that's great. Are you a member of any clubs, other clubs that you would like to thank?
I'd like to thank a lot of clubs who hosted me where I gave some practice speeches, not necessarily the ones I ended up with. And I'd really love to thank District 83 and the leadership for all their support. And I especially want to thank what we've affectionately termed the R team. So I have a select group of folks from the district who've been helping me through the summer to get prepared, and, you know, they've shown me the love, the tough love, and I just wanted to say thank you.
This is Ray Schnell. Ray, where are you from?
I'm from Hartsville, South Carolina.
I love that. What district are you representing?
I'm representing District 58.
And what is your club's name?
The name of my club is the Hartsville Toastmasters.
Oh, that's great. Are there any other clubs that you'd like to mention?
I'm going to have to say the same thing that Rebecca said. There are a lot of clubs that helped me. I had the opportunity to go up to Greenville and as far as south as Charleston. But one of the clubs that helped me the most was the Sumter Club. And I want to pay a special thanks to my coach, Douglas Wilson.
Well, we've kind of already answered this, but you may want to expand on how has your club helped you prepare?
My club helped me to prepare by doing exactly what I'm sure all of us did to get on this stage. Practice, practice, practice. They insisted on me practicing every night, all the time, when I didn't want to, Saturdays, Sundays, everything, just to keep me practicing. But it got me here, so I thank them for that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You gotta love Toastmasters. All right. This is Reed Wally.
What?
Reed, where are you from?
Sacramento, California. Country of California.
The country of California. You know, I'm from Texas. That really is a republic. So, all right. So, what district are you representing?
I represent District 39.
And what is the name of your club?
The name of my club is Capital City Toastmasters, and we've been around for 75 years.
Wow. Is there any other club that you want to mention?
Yes. Thank you to all the clubs that hosted me throughout this amazing, grueling event. Practice, 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 and let us tear you down so you get better and you get stronger. Thank you to all the clubs. I don't remember all of them. But they gave me the best feedback and the best advice and the best teardowns for the best strengthening. Thank you.
All right. Now your question is, how has Toastmasters impacted your life?
Ooh. When I'm out at a coffee shop practicing my eye contact, I'm the weirdest person there. I will look at people for a couple seconds across the room from me just to practice my eye contact, and I'll get a look back, and I'm like, I'm just weird.
Well, I think that's probably an impact, all right. I was just practicing my eye contact. This is Rhonda Holdridge, right? Holdridge, I got it right. Yay! Rhonda, where are you from?
I'm from St. Helens, Oregon.
What district are you representing?
District 7.
And what is your club's name?
Columbian Toastmasters.
Are there any other clubs or people you want to thank?
Every single one of them in District 7.
All right.
I would also like to thank my official chauffeur, which was my dad, to every single meeting. Road Warrior. And my sister and my husband, they're at all of the contests, and Michelle and Randy that helped me so much as coaches.
Thank you. Rhonda, what advice would you give to members who have never competed in speech contests?
I would say go out on a limb and just do it. But be true to your heart. You're going to hear people say, oh, you should say it this way. You should do this gesture. Or you should sound this way. And pretty soon, you start sounding like someone else. And it's so important just to be you on the stage. And if you're one of those that can ham it up backstage, you should be able to do it up here and be okay with yourself. So I would say just be yourself and have fun.
This is Chris Nachtraub. I think Chris brought something to share here. All right, Chris, so where are you from?
If you haven't guessed, I am from the Queen City of the Midwest, Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay, that explains a lot. And I guess we know. What district are you representing?
District 40.
And what is your club's name?
Toast of the Town.
Are there any other clubs you want to mention?
The whole district has been wonderful. I just want to point something out. Everybody in Cincinnati wanted to come out and compete this time just to try and get some semblance of whole field advantage. And I had to beat several of my mentors to get to this stage. And every single one of them immediately joined my team after the competition. And without Mike and Kay and Phil, I wouldn't be here.
Thank you. That's sweet. Chris, tell us, how does speaking in front of a larger crowd affect your performance?
This experience is unlike anything else. There's an energy in the room. There's 375 people in here. And you get to feel all that energy, and yet at the same time, make individual connections. And you can't do that in any other format. So I love being up here. It inspires me. It gives me more energy, feeding off of that. And I hope I'm able to give that back to the audience. Thank you very much.
This is Joshua Wilpret. Joshua, tell us, where are you from?
I'm from the small town of Dell Rapids, South Dakota.
What district are you representing?
District 78.
And what is your club's name?
I'm a member of two clubs, Super Speakers, number 9281, and Sioux Falls Club, number 210.
I'm so excited that he knows the numbers of the clubs. Okay. That's above and beyond.
And I do have to say, not to one-up anybody, but Sioux Falls Club 210, December 1st, 1941.
That's older than I am. Joshua, what made you join Toastmasters in the first place?
I originally joined to meet people, and I realized that today and every time you speak, you meet people in a different way. It was so well said that when you're giving your speech, you share a moment with everybody in the audience. You look to see someone's face when their face hurts when you hurt, when they laugh at you doing the Baywatch impression on stage. So originally it was to meet people. Now that I've been in it for 2 years, I realize it's about communication and it's about the relationship with my wife, who could not be here tonight. She is also one of those road warriors who's at every competition, and she couldn't be here for good reason. I'm a dad of 9 days, so... They're watching. Jessica, Jacob, love you. it's about the people, and it's about the relationship with my wife. That's what I would say.
Thank you.
Hit it.
All right, everyone, this is Lynette.
Not Lynette.
Not Lynette. Charity.
Is this on?
Lynette,
Yes, it
where
is.
are you from?
Richland, Washington.
Wow.
District 9.
And your club's name?
Atomic City Club.
Atomic City. Oh.
We are at Ground Zero, Hanford Nuclear Site. Can't you tell I glow in the dark?
Yeah, that's very good. All right, yeah, you do have something special, that's for sure. I want to know, do you have any lucky charms or good luck rituals that you do before giving a speech?
Some I can tell, some I cannot. Hi, honey. Yes. Actually, to be honest with you, a number of people have given me special amulets. I had someone knit something for me. I have them all in a plastic bag. I take them out before I practice, and I look at them because, yep, she's got it right there. There it is. Yeah, yeah. And they're very near and dear to me. I feel that they have an essence that helps me get through all of this. And I love all of you.
Oh, yeah. All right, thank you. Well, now we know that TMI doesn't just stand for Toastmasters International. All right, let's get one last round of applause for our contestants. And what do you know? PC came over here. Wait, are we good team? PC and Mac, I tell you what. You betcha. All right. So I'm guessing that the next thing I need to do is say thank you to all of the functionaries, timers, ballot counters, and those anonymous judges. Well, I've got to see if there were any disqualifications on time. There were 2. Oh, no. That breaks my heart. All right. The names of the winners. I'm going to read 3rd place, then 2nd place, and then 1st place. And I think I'm supposed to have a helper up here. Sorry. Please help me welcome semifinal number 3. 3rd place goes to Mark Goldberg. Semifinal number 3, second place, goes to Reed Wally. Semifinal number 3, first place, goes to Chris Doctor. We're going to let the winner say a few words, if he has a microphone. Hello? There you go.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you to so many people. I'll start with my club. They have been so unbelievably supportive, giving up entire meetings to me and helping me to get to this spot. Thank you all so much. I want to thank my beautiful wife, who's tearing up right there, for giving me reason to get out of bed every single day. I am grateful. I want to thank my mother and father who are sitting here. My mother's birthday is tomorrow. She'll be 70, but doesn't look it. Happy birthday, Mom. And I got to thank this guy sitting down here who put my box on the stage, Mike Davis. He's been a coach. He's been a friend. He kept kicking me when I did things wrong and telling me where to do it better. And it's worked. We'll see you Saturday. Thank you.
All right. All right, I have a few announcements. First of all, photos can be taken with the winners here at the Media Center, so don't try to stop them on their way out. They do need to report to the Media Center. If you haven't visited Credentials, we will be open until 7 p.m. today, and they are open from 2 until 6 tomorrow, and from 2:30 to 5:30. What? Yeah, I'm just reading this wrong. So they're going to be open till 7 p.m. today. Yeah. And then tomorrow, Friday, August 23rd, from 2:30 to 5:30. There are signs out in the lobby pointing you to Credentials. If you can read and follow signs, you can get there. But it is that way. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for attending. Please clear the room if you are not staying for the next contest. Thank you.